Good morning, everyone. It's Mary, and it's time for another episode of the Monday Morning Leadership Bite. We're going to talk generation. I had a conversation with someone a couple weeks ago, and they had a volunteer team, and it just so happens to be that the team is made up of people who were quite a few years younger than her. And in one particular person, as she was talking about, she summed up the problem she's having by saying this person was a typical millennial. And I thought, whoa, what's a typical millennial? I'm curious. And she described a typical millennial, and you might be thinking some of the same things she did. And I thought, well, that's interesting because I know people who are not millennials that have those same attributes. As leaders, we have to be very careful when we stereotype people, and whether it's stereotyping them on where they come from or on the generation itself. We have a unique situation in the current workforce and the volunteer force in which we can have anywhere from 4 to 5 generations working together. And that can also create tension, but not because of age, but because of stage. The stage in life that people are in will dictate some of their attributes of behaviors and what they bring to the table. And so it's very dangerous for us as leaders to make assumptions just because someone is young or that someone is old that they can or cannot do something. I have a 91-year-old great aunt that I spend quite a bit of time in, and she will constantly say, well, I guess things just change and that's just the way of the world. But she never uses this as an excuse as to why she can't do something. She just adjusts. And I also know people who are in their 50s that act like they're in their 20s, and you're like thinking to yourself, when are you going to grow up? So we have to make sure that we're not buying into stereotypes, and that instead we treat people based on their behaviors and their attitudes, and make sure that while generations are real, there are some generational differences. It is not the big deal that it can be. And while it can at times create tension in a team, it is because everyone is buying into the stereotype that somehow the generations is a bigger deal than it really has to be. So remember, age and stage are two different things. As someone can be at a stage of life that may be different, older or younger, than the age of life that they can be. And the age and stage don't necessarily explain everything. The majority of differences among a team is driven by their unique personalities and not necessarily by their generation and their age. It's generated by their life experiences. It's generated by the things that they have gone through. And we can go through those things at many different ages. So I've got 4 tips for you in terms of dealing with a multi-generational workforce or a multi-generational volunteer team. Number 1 is mentorship and partnership. What I find really, and research actually backs this up, one of the Harvard Review articles I read a while back talked about taking different generations and mentoring each other. That you can have someone who's a Generation X mentor someone who is a boomer. And it's not necessarily about what they can do. They're exchanging experiences. They're teaching each person is teaching the other. So it's not that the older person teaches the younger person. It could be the younger person teaching the older person. But it's a valuable aspect of taking those generations and pulling them together and allowing them to partner together on a solution or a problem or a work, and that they can learn from each other from that. Number 2, you need to adapt your management style based on the behaviors that you're seeing, not necessarily on the stereotypes of what you think that person is like. So instead, you're going to say, does someone need a coach? Do they need a cheerleader? Do they need more direction? These are the types of things you're going to adapt your style to give them what they need based on the behaviors. Number 3, you're going to make sure that everyone has meaningful work and they feel valued. I've seen this a lot in organizations where someone will say, well, they got to cut their teeth on this task over here. And it has nothing to do with them being an engineer or an accountant or in management. But we give them this task because they're low man on the totem pole. And if it's not going to help them and bring value, then why give it to that person just because they're younger? Or why give something that's like, oh, this is technology based. Don't give it to the older person because they won't know technology. Why make that assumption? If a task needs to be done, dole out that task based on ability. Don't dole out the task because you think that person can or can't not do anything. And number 4, work-life integrations. It is going to be different for everyone, and a lot of it is based upon more of again, experiences than it has to do with age. And I will say that some of the younger generations have seen their grandparents and their great grandparents and even their parents work and put a lot of effort into getting where they are and not enjoy life. That's not true in every situation, but it is definitely true in the older generations. They were taught, the culture said, you work and then you play. And so many people saw, especially Gen Xers, saw their grandparents work really hard at the end of it, either financially or the ability they could not do the things that they wanted to do, like travel or spend time with friends and family. So oftentimes we have to be aware of that work-life integrations, and sometimes people are willing to forego financial benefits for time. So I rather have less money if I can have more time to do the things that I want to do. And when you get to know that about a person, you can actually start to, again, manage them based upon their work-life integrations. So there you go. Those are my 4 tips for you on dealing with a multi-generational team. And my challenge for you this week is I want you to find someone who's of a different generation than you. Older or younger, it doesn't matter. Ask them out for coffee or lunch. Just go out with them and have a conversation. Ask about hopes and dreams. Ask about what they've been on their life experiences. You'll gain a lot from that conversation, and so will they. And you'll be a stronger leader because now you'll start to understand individuals and you'll start to break those stereotypes that you might actually have. So there you go. This has been the Monday Morning Leadership Bite. Remember to like, comment, and share. Someone needs to hear this message. Someone might be interested in this message. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like the Ember Carrier Facebook page, as well as you can subscribe to me on my channel in YouTube. So thanks again and have a great and wonderful week.